Hey everyone, you're listening to Party Time, My Golf Story with Kevin Walsh and whatever special guest he has today. You can check me out on episode 9 of the podcast. Today I'm wearing Grayson clothes while I'm out practicing because I believe in look good, play good. And follow me on Instagram, Sophia Warren Golf, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the program. I'm really excited about today's interview. It is with Will Saulsbery. He is the author of You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. Now, who is that blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour? It's Jay Delsing. Do you know who Jay is? I mean, you really have to be into golf to know who that was, but he had a long career on the PGA Tour, made a lot of money, had great success. But more than anything, what we like about Jay Delsing's story, as told by Will Saulsbery, is he takes us behind the scenes of the PGA Tour, which is really what this podcast is all about. Tell us something we don't know. Let us look behind the curtain. I read the book. It's a fabulous book, and I know you will like it. The author will be along in just a minute, Will Saulsbery. I can see him down in the queue. You can't see him yet, but he'll be with us in just a minute. Hey, look, before we go any further, would you do me a favor? If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, would you do so? That makes a difference to the bean counters, all the algorithms and everything. And it also means a lot to our title sponsors. Big thanks to Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course and you're tired of beer and crappy seltzers, named after a time of day or a crustacean and everything, try a Party. I got a whole bookcase of them filled behind me. For golfers, by golfers. Absolutely fabulous. Once you try that, that will be your drink of choice on the golf course. And if you don't have Party at your golf course of choice, then talk to the beverage staff or the golf staff and say, hey, we need Party here. Party is distributed by Paradise Craft Distributors, the exclusive distributor of Party across the state of Florida, and also available in New England and coming to a state near you. Big thanks to the Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene Walsh, Vince Visicaro, and Samantha Walsh, suncoastdreams.com, the division of fine properties. If you're looking for a golf property in the greater Sarasota area, nobody better than the Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene, Vince, and Samantha, all based out of Lakewood Ranch, all based out of Lakewood National Golf Club, where this podcast originates from. And if all that golf has you tired out and you're looking to take a cold water plunge, red light therapy, sauna, maybe a massage, because you need that after a hard day on the golf course, Violet Spa in downtown Sarasota has got you covered for all those things. All right, let's bring our guest of honor in here, Will Saulsbery. Will, you seem like the kind of guy that would do well at Violet Spa or something. You know, guy that likes the. I'm just busting your golf balls, man. But hey, if you want to go, I've done it.
I know a guy. All right, okay.
I am your guy, and I know the gals that own the place. They're my neighbors. How you doing, my friend? What's going on?
I'm doing well. Just winter finally landed here in St. Louis, so no golf this past weekend. It was a little too chilly, but I'm doing well overall.
Well, then come on down to Florida. Although it is a little bit chilly, temperature only in the mid 60s. Although that would sound really good in St. Louis about now.
It'd be like heaven right about now, man.
And tomorrow's I expected to be 59. And in the morning, it's going to be the 30s. And I have a 720 loop that I got to caddy for. Man, that's going to be cold. But I know you're not crying for me. Hey, listen, well, I really liked the book. I mean, it was so good. It was a fast read for me in that I liked it so much I didn't want to put it down. And I got through it in about a week's time, which is fast reading for me. So for those who are not familiar with Jay Delsing, why don't you bring us up to speed, who he is, what he did in the game, and why we should care about his life story.
Well, Jay's a St. Louis native. He grew up here. His dad played Major League Baseball for 10 years. And the reason they were in St. Louis, he played for the Browns for a bit, just loved it here. His father, Jim Delsing, one of the premier defensive center fielders of the 1950s. And, you know, Jay grew up, fell in love with the game of golf, loved just being outside by himself, hitting the ball from one end to the other, just chasing it down, and got really good. Ended up at UCLA with, you know, Corey Pavin, Duffy Waldorf, Steve Pate, and Tom Pernice Jr. They ended up winning, I think, 3 straight Pac-10 titles. He was a 2-time All-American. Then he grinded out a career, which most of us, every single one of us probably listening to this, would dream for. 25, 30 years of playing professional golf on the PGA Tour. And that's, not the reason you should love him. He's just an absolutely amazing, first-rate human being, the most enthusiastic ambassador for the game of golf that I have ever met in my life.
Well, the thing that I liked is I know it was more your written word than his, but I felt like he was talking to me through the book. I felt like he was the next bar stool over. Was that one of the goals going into the book?
Yeah, I mean, that was the way we did it. So I would go over, we kind of workshop some ideas of chapters, some titles and stories he wanted to tell. And then I'd go over to his house, just sort of interview him like this. And then I'd transcribe that and then just work it and weave it into a book. So it's all written in first person. It is his voice. The bulk I did was the research, the punctuation, the making sure the tenses were the same, all of that boring grammar stuff that us book nerds love that the rest of the folks don't care about. But yeah, it's his voice. I wanted it to sound like him talking to you, telling you these stories, not just reading tales, but like you can hear his voice in your head talking to you the whole time. It's fantastic.
Well, Saulsbery is our guest here on Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene Walsh, Samantha Walsh, and Vince Vizzicaros on CoastDreams.com and Party Drinks. He is the author of You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf grit and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour, the Jay Delsing story. So okay, I'm glad you brought it because I just have it in Kindle form, which does nothing for the visual. That's a good look. That's a good looking book right there.
That's right.
So how did you meet Jay?
So I do marketing is my full-time job for a living. So I do a lot of event marketing, entertain clients, put on first-rate events, and we work with a lot of auto dealers in our industry. So I was like, what do auto dealers like? They like 2 things, cigars and golf. So we had looked up Jay online. I heard his radio show here in St. Louis, Golf with Jay Delsing. It's great, syndicated nationwide. And we had him out to an event and he was just fantastic. And we just became fast friends. He's a great guy. Talking to him, and I went out one day and he used to be part owner of a wine bar, and we met up there and, we're just talking, going back and forth. And I'm sitting next to my buddy Gavin, who is from across the pond over in Britain. And Jay's like, hey, did I tell you about the time I played golf with Sean Connery? And we're both like, no, you have our attention. And that's kind of where this whole book journey began, was right there on a bar stool, like you said, talking about Sean Connery.
Boy, I wouldn't know anything about sitting on a bar stool myself, good Irishman like me.
No.
But I wish Jay were on my right side, you were on my left side. But you mentioned Sean Connery, Agent 007. So let's go there. Chance meeting sparked a friendship. How the heck does that happen?
So it's chapter 1 of the book. So we won't spoil too much for you, but Jay, like, we mentioned earlier, he had a full ride scholarship to UCLA to play on the golf team. And part of that is they had privileges at Bel Air, is one of the places they would practice. And his coach said, I want you to go up tonight, go to the putting green, just give some lessons. Anyone needs help, stuff like that. So he's just up there. He's 19. He's been in LA for maybe a month. And he said he just heard this voice that was weird, odd but familiar, that said, young man, would you play 9 holes with me? And he turned around and it's Sean Connery. And this isn't just anybody. This is 1978, 1979 Sean Connery. He's arguably one of the 5 most famous human beings on the planet. And so Jay's just like, yes, sir, I'm not allowed to play. And he's like, well, I cleared it with the clubhouse. So they played 9 holes together. And Jay's like, he carried his own bag. He was just a man's man, just no pretension whatsoever, just a good Scotsman, just playing golf. And so he told me that story, and I'm just sitting there as a writer. I'm like, I got to write a book with this guy. I got to make it happen. And then I pestered him, courted him, if you will, for a while. And he finally said yes. I broke him down and we started writing the whole thing.
Well, he didn't just play golf with him. He had a beer with him after.
Oh, yeah. He said, you want to come back to the clubhouse and have a beer with me? And, it's Sean Connery. It's James Bond. It's not, Joe Schmo. So yeah, there's a really cool part in the first chapter. I don't want to ruin it for you, but he runs into a couple other people and Jay's just like, oh, hey, how you doing? And let's just say they turned out to historically be pretty important, and it's going to blow your mind. It doesn't seem true, but hand to God, it's all true. So you got to read the book to find out that part.
Okay, I'll give up some of it. It became two very well-known directors who are household names. Everybody, but so he ends up in here's a kid from St. Louis, just kind of humble beginnings and surroundings, and now he's surrounded by all this star power. And I don't know what your freshman year was like in college, but I lived in Cary Quad at Purdue, and my closet was like a crack in the wall, and it was just like, we're paying all this money for this. Well, I was on partial scholarship, so I wasn't paying. But he had much better digs, which were totally unexpected. Where did he live?
Yeah, so he thinks he's going to the dorms, right? Corey Pavin. So the year before Jay's freshman year, Corey Pavin's National Player of the Year, right? Pretty big deal. He lives in the dorms, so Jay's like, I'm going to go live in the dorms. So this guy picks him up at LAX. You got to imagine you're 18, 19. You don't have a cell phone. You just land at LAX and some guy comes up and goes, "You're Jay Delsing?" And he's like, "Yeah." So he just takes him to where he's going to stay. And he drives, I think it's on the 10th green or the 14th green at Bel Air. And it was Lana Turner's old house. And it was Miss McCullough Chainsaws. And she married the guy from Briggs and Stratton. I think so. They take him to a house that I believe in 2024 sold for over $20 million. So Jay goes from an 800 square foot house in North County in St. Louis with 3 sisters, a brother, and his parents. And he's living in a house where his room, like his bedroom, is probably bigger than his entire house. And he's just like, he's like, what? He just showed up and no one's there. And it was his job to take care of the dogs.
I guess I'll just have to do that. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about college. You never know, but it's usually much worse than that. I mean,
I was in a 10 by 13 dorm room with my best friend Dave at the University of Missouri. It was nice, but
Have you seen college dormitories now? They're all swagged out with everything. They've got cable, like everything. It's just like it's like a vacation.
Oh yeah, back then not so much. Not
at all. So one of the things that I liked about Jay. Well, before I get to that, let's go back to the very beginning of the book. I'm so glad that I read the preface by David Faraday. I mean everything that guy writes, because he called like all Jay's college teammates, and I think he included Jay, and there's total idiots. He shit on a couple of people, but he can say it in such a way that it doesn't offend the crap out of you. And it reminds me, he's like golf's equivalent of Charles Barkley. He can get away with murder, everything he says. But what's Jay's relationship with David Faraday, and why was that important enough to have David Faraday write some glowing and shitting remarks at the beginning, which were glorious.
They've been buddies since the late 80s, early 90s, played a ton of golf together. And, Faraday, he's just hilarious. He is the quintessential Irishman. He's going to tell you what he thinks. And if you have a problem with it, it's too bad, because he's not going to lie. He's just going to tell you the absolute unadulterated truth. So Jay reached out to him, and we had to print, when the book wasn't even done yet. So obviously we had to print him out 200 pages from the printer at work and mail it to him so he could read it on the plane. And as he read it on the plane, he kind of walks you through linearly of him reading the book and his reaction to the different chapters. And that is the preface of the book by David Faraday. And at one point, I think he takes some sleeping pills and refers to them as, quote, the velvet sledgehammer is how he sleeps on planes. So it's just a taste of it.
Well, the whole thing about Faraday is like whatever he's talking about or writing about, you feel like you're with him at the time. And it feels like he just pulled it out of thin air. And maybe he does. Maybe that's the brilliance of his mind. But as you and I know as authors, and you've written other books, we'll get into that too. Sometimes good writing, it doesn't come real quickly. You got to think on it. But Faraday gives the illusion that he just pulls it out of thin air. Does he, or does he grind with the writing more than we know?
I don't know. It was more of just a narrative of him reading the book. He's kind of giving you the play-by-play, if you will. He's the color man. And, he's telling you how it's going. And that's the way it reads to me. I'm sure he did a couple edits on it because it came through and it was very clean text. So I know he went over it a couple times, but I think it was his genuine first impressions of the book.
Well, I love that he called his college teammates idiots. And so I guess that means Jay is an idiot in some way, but the biggest idiot, at least based on the writing, and I want to get into this because I find it wildly entertaining. And I know he's a nice guy. behind it is the human volcano. Who is that for those not in the know?
So that is Steve Pate. When you write a book, you end up reading it 10 or 12 times just because you're editing it, you're rewriting stories, making sure things are correct. And there's a whole chapter about Jay's time at UCLA with the UCLA golf team. And a bunch of it's dedicated to Steve Pate. And every time I edited the stories, I laughed out loud. So they nicknamed him the human volcano because he would just explode and let out just sentences of expletives, just screaming and screaming, but he never screamed at anyone other than himself. So he would just lay into himself like, you dumb mother effer, you can't be any more dumb, just screaming at himself. And the stories are hilarious. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, Jay, did this happen? He's like, this 100% happened. All of us were mortified, but it's exactly what Steve Pate did. But every account, he's like, Steve's a great guy. Like, he's the nicest guy on earth. He just loved to relax, drink his tequila, eat his Haagen-Dazs. But when he's on the course, if something happens, because he's an excellent golfer. I think he won 7 times on the PGA Tour, that's a lot. But yeah, exactly. So, but if something happened that wasn't supposed to happen, that it was his fault, he would just lay into himself. And the stories are epic. And I'm sure there are more. There's a few we had to leave out. But the ones that are in there are very good.
Well, you put some stories. Look, I think we all know somebody like that. I had, say, like the Riley brothers. I grew up with them. They were golf professionals, ran a little bit hot, and sometimes temper tantrums on the golf course. And people that didn't know them would look at me like, well, what's going on? I'm just like, it's fine. Just it's going to be fine in a sec. You're just going to get it out. You don't need to get involved. And so when reading about Steve Pate, I was thinking about the Riley brothers.
Nice.
One of the things that I liked about the book was Jay was willing to dish. Okay.
Yeah,
and that's hard. That's hard to find among PGA Tour pros. I mean, there are plenty of guys that there's a lot to dish on, but you do so at your own peril. And so basically they all just clam up and say nothing, and nobody says anything about Tiger. But Jay was willing to diss on a couple people. Let's start with Hale Irwin, because he's from St. Louis too. And there was maybe, just big timing somebody from the backyard. Pick it up from there.
So the story breaks down. It's just that they're out playing around a golf. I forget which tournament it was in. And Jay's like, this is Hale Irwin. We're from the same town. I'm going to say hi to him. And Jay's just like, hi, I'm Jay Delson. I'm from St. Louis. And Hale's just like, hi. That's it. No smile, no handshake, nothing. And Jay's like, okay. And you have to understand, Hale Irwin he's won multiple US Opens. He is uber competitive. Like, it's not fun and games when he's out there. He's not out there to have a good time. He's out there to win, chop you down at the knees, whatever he's got to do to win. So they're going, and Jay's just like, I just want to beat him this day. He's like, that's it. This day between me and Hale, I just want to win. So that was Jay's focus the entire day. And there's certain rules of golf, and things you do and you don't do. And one of the big ones, which we all know, is you don't walk through somebody's line or walk through someone's line when they're lining up a putt. It's just something you don't do. One, it's just rude. It's not good sportsmanship. I know.
And even the through line. Even the through line, which people don't understand, is like where the ball would roll if it went past the hole. All right. So,
and this is something I'm sure you've probably taught every kid you've ever, taught to play golf. Jay does the same thing. So Jay's lining up a putt, and Hale Irwin's caddy just walks through and big times him like that. So he's starting to run hot. And he says that after that hole, Jay takes his own putter, puts it in the caddy's back pocket, and pulls rather hard back towards him. And he just says, am I going to have a problem with you out here today? And the caddy's like, what are you talking about? Jay's like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that was the tone of the round. And then Johnny Miller's out there just being Johnny Miller. So it was a very, very interesting round. I don't think either of them shot well, but interesting day. And that kind of set the tone, I think, for the way Jay and Hale interacted for the rest of their respective careers.
It's unfortunate, but it's real, and that makes it interesting. But Hale used to host the thing, and all the other St. Louis area pros were there, but Jay wasn't there. Coincidence, or is there a reason behind that?
You want to assume a positive intent, but I think that if it was me, I would feel that it was intentional. If there's only 2 or 3 professional golfers from St. Louis and you're one of them, and you're hosting a charity event in St. Louis that's based around golf, the first three people you would call would be the other three professional golfers in St. Louis, but Jay didn't get a call.
Yeah, I think he got the cold shoulder, and that's wrong. You don't big time anybody from the backyard. In fact, I play. Look, I was born and raised in Philadelphia. If anybody big timed me, and I knew they were from Philly, I'm like, I know where you're from, and I know the people that know you, and that usually just settles them down. But good for Jay sticking up for himself.
Oh,
the Scott Hoke thing is very interesting because Jay had to stand his ground again, and even a father got involved. What happened?
So just to set the stage, Scott Hoke, I didn't know anything about him until Jay told me this story. So I did a lot of research. In the late 80s, there was a survey of all players on the PGA Tour, and Scott Hoke won most unlikable. Voted on by his peers, not by guys in the media, not by writers, not by fans, by his peers. So they're out one day, they're playing up in Canada, I think it was at Glen Abbey, and beautiful golf course. Jay loves it. It's Canadian Open. They set it up like a US Open. They want it to be, it's the Canadian Open. So, they're up there one day and, Jay hits a ball in the rough. There's another ball in the rough, and he's like, they're out, kind of in the bushes, and they go in there. There's two Titleist twos, and Jay's like, I need to check which ball's mine, make sure it's mine, which you're entitled to do under the rules. So he picks it up. He's like, this one's mine, sticks it back down. He has no shot. So he chips out 15 feet onto the fairway, goes up, makes his bogey, goes to live another day. And he's walking, and he's with the other guy in the group, and he's just like, you can just feel that it's weird. Like something's weird. When you're playing, if it's a pickup basketball game, if it's a round of golf, if something's weird in the group, you can feel it.
It's in the air. It's a vibe. Everybody gets it.
Oh, yeah. It's real. Everyone knows it. So Jay's like, what's going on here? And the guy's like, don't worry about it, man. And he's like, just tell me what's up. And he's like, Hoke thinks you cheated back there. He thinks you improved your lie. And he's like, I chipped out 15 feet. And I why did I improve my lie? And he's like, that's what I told him. And Jay's like, whatever, go. So Jay's playing well. He's going to make the cut. Scott's not going to. So round ends, everything's fine. The next day they go out there. They're playing, and the weather's looking a little dicey, but you got your rain gear on, off, all that kind of stuff. So Jay hits a ball into the right bunker, and as he's walking, he says, the heavens open up, gully washer, horn goes off, place is spinning. So Jay goes down there with his caddy. He puts 2 tees in under his ball. He's sitting there, coordinating with his caddy because he wants to make sure he gets everything right when he comes back. Puts the tees in the sandbox, in the sand trap, picks up his ball, and Scott Hoke comes sprinting across the fairway. And you get it. Jay's 6'5", Scott Hoke's about 5'9", 5'10". And he runs up to Jay and he says, I can't believe you're cheating again. And Jay is one of these guys, like he has a very long fuse. So just don't get to the end of it. And so they get into it, and Jay grabs him by the collar, pulls him in. He's got an umbrella in one hand, Scott Hoke in the other. And it's him, his caddy, Scott Hoke's caddy, and then a rules official. And so the lady holding the stanchion. And he's like, ma'am, can you please get me a rule official now?
And hold on. And the lady's like a grandmotherly kind of lady, and she's shaking in her boots. She's like, what the hell's going on here? All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's golf. Yeah. This isn't a sandlot.
Yeah. Fight's about to break out here. Kind of sort of was anyway.
So he's like, ma'am, get me a rules official. So it's in Canada. So they have a Canadian rules official come up. And Jay's like, sir, will you please tell this expletive that I'm allowed to mark my ball through to the green under the rules of suspension? And the guy's like, yeah, of course you are. And he's like, thank you. And the guy's standing there, and Jay's like, you can leave. And Jay just says to Scott, I've always tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. Everyone says you're the worst, blank out here. I didn't believe him till today, but I am done with you. Right? That's it. Lets him go. Tells his caddy, look, we're done for the day. I'm going to go into the clubhouse, get some food. So he goes to the clubhouse. He's like, I just go to the corner. I'm soaking wet. I just want some food. I'm by myself. And he's just sitting there eating. And he just feels a tap on his shoulder. And he turns around, and it's Scott Hoke's father. Right. And he's like, apparently he was out there under a tree, and he just says to Jay, I want to apologize. I've told my son since he was a kid just to keep his mouth shut. And Jay's like, Mr. Hoke, I don't know what to say. It's like, and it's just, we've talked about this, the scarlet letter of being called a cheater in golf. There's nothing worse. Like basketball, you can be called a dirty player. You can be called this. Baseball, you can say, oh, they stole signs. People forget about it in a week, but You call someone a cheater on the golf course, Kevin, you know this better than me. I mean, that's something you do not shake.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, look, there's some pretty good players out there that have that tag on them. And as much as they think people don't know, those that know, they know. Yeah. And then that person that cheated, they know that everybody knows. So they can never really get comfortable. Will Saulsbery is our guest here. He is the author of You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf grit and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour, written by Jay Delsing. Book available at jdelsinggolf.com. Is that it?
Correct. Yes, Jay Delsing. That's the best place to get it. If you have an Amazon affinity, you can get it there as well or anywhere fine books are sold.
jdelsinggolf.com. I had it earlier, just jdelsing.com, but I fixed it, jdelsinggolf.com. So the other thing that I really liked was I think Jay made himself vulnerable about how much the game hurt his personal relationships. Now, I'll never forget that Jay Haas once talked about, I mean, every week's a road game, right?
Yeah.
And he told his son, Bill, when he went on tour, he said, look, when you're at home, don't be wishing you were on the road playing. And when you're playing, don't be wishing you were back home because it ain't going to work. But in the end, what happens is a lot of sacrifices are made and sometimes the family gets short shrift. And there were some moments where I could feel Jay's pain going on there. You know, how important is family to him and how much was like the breakup of his marriage difficult for him, although it's not uncommon in pro sports.
Yeah, for him, like he wanted one of the main things that, you know, he talked to his co-host, the great Dan McLaughlin, you know, great broadcaster, voice of the Cardinals for a long time. And he's like, they talked about it and we talked about it. He's like, I wanted to write this for my daughters because he was gone for a lot of their childhood. This is how he made a living. And he wanted them to know what he was gone doing and, you know, what was happening while he was out there. And so that was the big thing for him. And he's one of these guys, he starts talking about his kids. And if you go longer than 5 minutes, he's going to start tearing up. He has 4 daughters. He loves them so much. And that was huge to him. You know, he missed a lot of their childhood. He's a great dad, but you know, when you're a dad, when you're not around your kids, you miss them constantly. And, you know, the older you get, you just start having kids like he did in his, you know, late 30s, early 40s. And you kind of see the back nine of your career and it just takes a toll on you. So I think he was very happy to get this done and written basically for his daughters. That's what he told me. He's like, if they're the only 4 people that read it and they like it, that'll be a success to him.
Yeah, well, he did a good job. So what's he up to now? What's he doing? He's not playing that much, is he?
No, I mean, he hosts his weekly radio show, Golf with Jay Delsing. And the podcast is on wherever you listen to your podcast. Great show. He has great guests on every week. A lot of guys from the tour, cool things like caddies, rules officials, things like that, like all different stories from the PGA. So he does that every week. He does a ton of coaching, a ton of teaching. He plays, you know, he's a member at Norwood Hills Country Club where the Stiefel Charity Classic is every year up here. And so he still plays 4 or 5 days a week when the weather's nice, but his radio show, he does that. And then he does just a ton of, he's the ambassador for, if you know what Play Yellow is, Jack and Barbara Nicholas's foundation. So he is the St. Louis, I don't know what the word is, ambassador for that. So he just hosted a big event for them here in St. Louis to raise money for their children's hospitals, which is, it's a big thing for him. Like for him, it's like if kids need help and he can do it and he can do it through golf, he's in. So that's kind of his big passion right now.
Well, it is a famous family and the gift keeps on giving. So it started with his dad, a Major League Baseball player, then Jay played the PGA Tour. And now his little kid nephew is kind of a big deal.
Oh,
has Taylor Twellman, the voice of soccer in America, beaten Uncle Jay yet in golf? Do you know?
No, he hasn't beaten him yet. Jay said, so Taylor Twellman is, you don't know, he's, you know, Apple TV's #1 soccer guy, MLS MVP, just absolute stud, amazing athlete. And I asked Jay, because we talked a lot about different athletes from different sports that he played golf with. And I said, who's the best non-golfer that you played with? He's like, I think right now it's my nephew, Taylor. Taylor's just an all-around fantastic athlete. So I don't think he's beaten Jay yet because there's just that, you know, it's no matter how good
it's a long bridge.
Yeah.
Taylor's an excellent player. He's probably a plus by now. The last time I saw him, he was pretty close to scratch, not quite there. But there's a massive gulf between a scratch player and somebody that's played the PGA Tour.
Well, they always talk about it. And I remember, I was listening to my buddy Tony Kornheiser's show, and they were talking about, when they did the match, and it was like Phil versus Steph, and they're like, Steph's pretty good. And he's like, that would be like you saying, I don't know, Phil's really working on his jump shot. Steph better look out. It's that same thing. Like, it's just, there's professionals, and then there's guys who are really good. And I think Taylor's probably an excellent golfer, but I don't know if he could beat his Uncle Jay. And that's something we should put on. We should put on TV. I think that'd be a good show.
You should do that, because that would be entertaining. Because I know Taylor is entertaining. And by the way, I taught him everything he knows about broadcasting. He was as green as grass when his soccer career ended with the New England Revolution, and we hosted at Comcast Sportsnet, which later became NBC Sports Boston. Mm-hmm. We were the home of the Revs, and we brought Taylor on board. Had no idea what he was doing, but let's put it this way: he figured it out real fast. And we knew he would, because he's good at everything.
Yeah, and Jay calls him instant offense. So that's Taylor, instant offense. Yes,
indeed.
Great guy,
but if you see Taylor, you remind him. It all started right here with this guy.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure Jay sends him a text tonight. There we go.
Well, one more time, where can folks find the book?
So you can find You Wouldn't Believe It If I Told You. Forward by Jack Nicklaus, which, my name's on the same cover as Jack Nicklaus. JDelsing, golf.com, Amazon.com, mascotbooks.com. Anywhere you want to buy a book, just Google Jay Delsing book and you got it.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's how I found it after I saw him on a podcast with my buddy Kelly Elbin. One more thing. Yeah. You've written other books. Tell me about your other books.
Oh, funny you should ask, because I have it right here.
Oh, you got it right there. You see? Wow.
So, when you ask people, what are you? I say, what are you? Jay's like, I'm a golfer. I asked my buddy Danny, like, what are you? He's like, I'm a broadcaster. If you ask me what I am, I'm a writer. So this is a collection of short stories that I put out earlier this year. It's called Death in the Midwest. And you can also get that on Amazon. Just a collection of 10 short stories that I put together over like 6 or 7 years. Really great reviews so far, which is awesome. It's like, you've written books, Kevin. You've written very, personal, intense books. And when you get that positive feedback from people that have great taste and, know, I know it sounds pretentious, the arts, but writing, music, whatever, theater, and they like it, it's like, holy cow, it's very humbling. So yeah, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah.
You got it. Well, any book I read, if I find something in a particular phrase, author to author, we can always track each other down, and I'll send them emails and I'll say, you wrote this, and that really sung to me. That really hit home. And nice. I know that means a lot to them. And I just got to tell you how much I like your book, just straight up. Really like the book, Will. Wish you good success on that. And same to Jay. Tell him I said hi, and tell Taylor I said hi. And he's welcome for all I've done.
I'll tell him his Professor Walsh wants that word with him.
You got it. Will Saulsbery has been our guest here on Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by the Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene Walsh, Vince Vizzacaro, and Samantha Walsh. If you're looking for real estate in the greater Sarasota area, check out suncoastdreams.com. Party Drinks. If you're looking for an alternative on the golf course, try a Party. You'll like it a lot better than some of that other stuff that's out there that you're pretending tastes good, but doesn't really taste that great at all. And if you're tired of all that golf and you need a place to unwind, Violet Spa in downtown Sarasota is the place for you. For Will Saulsbery, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on Party Time, My Golf Story.
You've been listening to It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers, and the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com or call 941-220-4000.